So I'm recording this as a video response to Hank Green's recent video that's called I'm Scared for Ireland ... where he talks about the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, and his thesis in the video is like the AMOC is very important, especially for Ireland, but all of Europe, in maintaining a stable temperate climate, and changes to this system would be disastrous, and yet people in Ireland do not talk about it or know about it. And just right off the bat, the thing that people are saying in the comments is, yes, people in Ireland do know about this and do talk about it. They just call it the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is like one small part of the AMOC, but it's a much more convenient shorthand for people to talk about than this like very jargony acronym. So, you know, it's good that Hank got to make this video about this thing that he cares a lot about, and he got to just like talk oceanography and climate. I'm happy for him. My interest is in the way that he puts this, like, people don't talk about the AMOC in the context of Ireland and what Ireland is and how you experience Ireland. So in the opening, he like talks about how Ireland is lush and green and ancient and poetic and extremely confusing. And part of this confusion is like, people don't know about the AMOC, even though it's important. The other confusion is like, people don't seem to like think too much about the fact that there's a border down the middle of the country that cuts out 6 counties. And I want to dig into this because I think that idea of Ireland as this like lush green ancient place that's beautiful and simple and where people just kind of get on with their lives and aren't wrapped up in climate or international politics and things like that, that is a construction that is purposeful. And this isn't a hit piece on Hank. I think this construction, Hank's reaction is this construction working exactly as it's meant to. And I think Hank kind of acknowledges this. He's got like a tiny little piece where he talks about like peatlands and peatland extraction, where he's like, extracting the peatlands was bad, but as I've learned in Ireland, everything is complicated. So he understands that like there's this like surface and then there's this other layer underneath where like suddenly everything gets very complicated. And he's been able to engage with that a little bit with peatlands, which I'd love to hear more about. But in terms of the North, in terms of climate, it seems like he wasn't able to like get under the surface. So basically my understanding, I'm an American, I've lived in Ireland for 5 years. And through that time, I've come to understand that like, when you're a tourist, you're sold this vision of Ireland that is easy to skate through. You go to the Guinness storehouse, you take the bus across the island to go to the Cliffs of Moher on a day trip. You might go on a hill walk somewhere in Howth, or like down to Dingle, and you cross the Connor Pass and you're like, the roads are really tiny. And then you talk to a bartender in Dingle and they're like, yep, the roads are tiny, it's just how it is. And then you're like, what do you think about the North? And they're like, well. And then you're like, have you heard of the AMOC? And they're like, what's that? And so like and then you leave and you get back on your plane and you're like, Ireland was beautiful. And it's quite confusing. And this like is the experience that is curated for people. And it's curated because of Ireland's history of colonization, that Ireland has always been like seen as a bit backwards, a bit like simple, a place to go to and extract something, whether that's like crops or a little piece of natural vacation. But then it's also like that the economy is based around tourism largely today, and that in shifting the economy towards tourism, there was this deliberate construction of Ireland as being this like beautiful green ancient place. And it's frustrating to have someone come away and talk about Ireland as like this kind of like simple construction, especially like when it comes to climate and when it comes to the north. Like, people do have opinions about the border and about the fact that 6 counties are missing from this republic. There was a whole civil war that was fought about it. People killed people in their own families over it. It's part of the like nation building story that there was this revolution and then there was this civil war that was about what happens to the 6 counties. It's incredibly hard for a lot of people to talk about. And it's quite deeply emotional. And so you just have to kind of understand that if you're a tourist coming through, people are not going to want to immediately say how they feel about the border. I've got a good friend who's like from like Kerry, 32 county Republican, like, let's get the 6 counties back, rah rah. And we went to Belfast together, and being with them in Belfast, it was their first time there. Belfast is the big city in Ulster in the north. And they just like were thrown for a loop, and they were like, oh my God, it's really complicated. And like, this is someone who's grown up in Ireland, who has had these Republican values and who like wants a united Ireland, and knows how they feel about this place and what it should be politically. And even they like go into the north were like, oh my God, it's so much more complicated than I thought. So like, people have opinions. And this is the thing about this slick surface, is that under that slick surface, as Hank kind of figured out a little bit with peatlands, it seems there's so much complication, and it's really easy to get mired in and to get, as people say, stuck in, like literally stuck into Ireland and its complication. Like, my research is all about this like green landscape of rolling grass fields and animal agriculture, and that like this idea of the rolling green hills is itself a construct and is more a result of the industrialization of agriculture in Ireland than it is a part of an ancient idea of people's relationship with the land. But it gets laundered through this like slickness as like, this is the Irish countryside, this is how people relate to their land, this is how things have been, this is how things should be, and get on your plane and go. But once you get under that surface, it's easy to get stuck into, oh, like, farmers have very complicated relationships with their land, and with the way that the landscape looks, the way that they're able to like make money or make a living off the land, their relationship to the ownership of land, their animals, all this stuff, which is mediated again through histories of colonization, and all this stuff is very complicated. And the other thing is like this thing of like, oh, people don't really have, they just get on with their lives, also like kind of portrays Irish people as like a bit simple, and like they don't think too deeply about things, which is again like echoes of colonization. Like, you're just going and you're engaging with these like diddly-eye people who like make great music and write poetry but don't really have much else behind them. That's the construction that you're engaging with. So I would challenge Hank, next time you're in Ireland, or anyone who visits Ireland, to try to get a bit under the surface. This is like, whenever I have someone visit me from America or from elsewhere, what I say is like, the best way to get to know Ireland is just to go to the pub, whether you drink or not, and not like the Temple Bar, the like big pub, but just like a random pub that you come across. Just go in and sit down, and like, you don't even have to talk to someone, but like, that's where Irish culture is. It's in these like, this like minutia, this like day-to-day quotidian stuff. It's not in Arthur Guinness. It's not in like the beauty of the cliffs and all this stuff. Like, it's in the pub, it's in the like minutia of the day-to-day. That helps you get under the surface. this like slick surface. But the thing about that is like once you get under the surface, you might get stuck because Ireland is complicated, as every place is, and it's difficult to come to a place and address that complication. And so that's what I like. In terms of climate, like I'd love to have seen Hank engage with some of the people who are doing activism and pushing back against the LNG terminal that's planned to be built in the Shannon Estuary. People who are like looking at data centers and their energy use and how like environmentalism has been skewed towards this kind of like international energy economy. Like there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of work with climate in Ireland and addressing the complication that exists here. And it's great to talk about the AMOC or the Gulf Stream, but there's more there. And so I would just encourage anyone who comes to Ireland, try to get a little more stuck in.